Yes, funny enough, when I discovered this concept, productive use of time, with a friend of mine, we were so intentional about using our time on earth productively. I mean, at that time, I think I was in my mid 30s. And when you are in your mid 30s, something hits you. You'll realize when you get them. You actually realize I'm no longer a young person. I'm no longer a young adult. I'm an adult. and and it hits you like a ton of bricks, because when you were younger, you thought there are things you would have achieved by the time you are an adult, and you're trying to remember people in your life, whether it's your parents, your aunts, and you're trying to remember just how much of adults they were when they were 35, when they were 36. But when you look at yourself, you're like, but I still think I'm a young person. I don't think I'm an adult. And I think for us then, our mortality was a very real thing for us. And we decided from now going forward, we are going to use the time that God gives us here on earth productively. That's where the concept of productive use of time comes from. During this lockdown, I've been listening to Les Brown, who is a speaker, and he's 75 years old. And I have never listened to a person who speaks about his death in the same breath that he speaks about just anything. He could be talking about eating. He could be talking about doing something. And right there, he will say, I know that I've spent more time on earth than the time that I have left. So he's so intentional about achieving his goals, because in his mind, he knows that he's not going to be here forever. And I think that's something that all of us can learn. Because even though we have an idea that we still have some time to live here on earth, the truth of the matter is we don't know. We don't know how much time we have. We don't know when we are going to die. So all the things in your career, in your ministry, in your business, with your family, that you keep postponing, thinking you'll have time to do them later, you may actually not have time to do them later. And he says something, actually, Les Brown, he says, ask yourself, this thing that I'm telling myself that I will do later, how will I feel if I never get an opportunity to ever do it again? If I die without having achieved this thing, would I feel like something is missing from my life? And there's this story about this guy who is a chef, and he did very nice Caribbean style dishes. And then he always said, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book so that people can know the recipes that I use. And at his funeral, another lady said, this guy said he's going to write a recipe book. Do you know if he ever wrote it? And the person that answered him said, no, he actually never wrote it. And that woman said, he died with it. Hey, he denied us those recipes. And for all of us, there are things that we want to achieve, Mpo. And a career is a vehicle for achieving those dreams, because a career will teach you things about professionalism. It will teach you things about project delivery, because life is a combination of projects. If you're having a child, that's a project. There's something that is involved for you to be pregnant. You have to carry that pregnancy to term for 9 months. There are things you can and cannot do during that 9 months. You give birth to the child. In the early months and weeks that you have that child, you will not say to the child, no, we are having steak, eat your steak. There's a way that you take care of that child until the child can do certain things on their own. That is a project. When you want to record a single or to write a book, or you want to get promoted to the next level at your work, that thing is a project. You realize that, I have to study these things for me to be promoted at work. So having a career teaches you to develop and to manage projects. And the people that are successful in life are the people who don't just think of ideas and say, I have this great idea. The people who are successful in this life are the people who will conceive an idea, who will think about a concept to say, you know what, I want to do music festivals, or I want to do ladies programs, or I want to be a CA. And when they conceive that project, they not only conceive it, but they will do everything that is required to achieve that idea, to make that idea come to pass. And they don't allow obstacles to stand in their way. So again, let's go back to project management to say you'll conceive an idea, that is your project. But the additional thing that you have to do with your project is that you need to fund your project. And a lot of people, especially Christians, get stuck at funding, because the same way that you plan for your project, you need to plan for funding your project. Because a lot of people, when you sit down with them, you ask them, okay, you wanted to be a doctor. Why are you not a doctor? They will explain to you that, no, I didn't have the money to pay for medical school. But I'll give you an example. When we were going to school, when we were going to vets in the mid-90s, I went to vets in 1995. I already knew that my parents will not afford to pay for my fees. I mean, I knew. I didn't even doubt. They were not, it seemed like they were not even interested. Maybe it just seemed that way they were interested. At that time, I knew that my parents did not have money for my fees. So I knew that in order to get a bursary, you have to pass well. So I spent the last 2 years of my high school career pursuing A's. Not because I wanted to have a name that, oh, I passed with A's. Because those A's were my means to fund chemical engineering at Wits. So the same way, we need to think about our careers in the same way, that there are things that you want to achieve. There are these projects that you want to achieve in your life. And for you to achieve these things, they need money. The question is, where are you going to get that money? And this one, especially for our young people, you cannot pursue your passion projects and say you won't do certain things that will bring money because you are pursuing your passion. What do I mean? Sometimes your passion is music, but you need to work a job that you are not passionate about so that you can fund the music passion. If you don't work at that job that you are not passionate about, chances are you will never be able to fund the project that you want to fund. So a lot of people are pursuing passion projects and they are frustrated because their passion is not yet at the level where their passion can pay them. Sometimes you are passionate about something, you are good at it, but there is no one who is willing to pay for that passion. If you find yourself at that place, you need to ask yourself, how do I continue to fund my lifestyle while my passion grows to the level where it can fund my lifestyle? So that whole project management approach is something that I hope all of us, we can have, because it will help you to spend your time productively. Every time you're asking yourself, am I making a contribution towards my project, or am I standing still, or am I actually going backwards? Nomfundo, who's one of the ladies that contributed a story, tells of a story of what happened early on in her career. She says when she started working for one of the insurance companies, they put her on a project, and her boss had to go on an extended leave. And during the time when her boss was on an extended leave, she was not allowed to go and see clients. And because she was not allowed to go and see clients, she didn't have work. She literally came to work every day with nothing to do. She then went to see her seniors, explained the situation to her, asked them if they had work for her, and they said no. And she kept going and they said no. And she said she sat down and she made a list hour by hour of how she uses her time at work for the entire week. And by the time she went, she said, you know what? Out of 5 days, the work that I'm doing is only 2 days of the week because I don't have anything to do. So when she had a conversation with them, she was saying to them, you have hired me here. You are paying me for every day that I come here. The work that is allocated to me only covers 2 days of the week. The other 3 days, I'm sitting doing nothing. And because she was armed with facts, because she had data, they were forced to look at it. And after looking at it, they said to her, no, go and speak to these 3 managers, find out from them if they have work for you. And if they do have work for you, then you can choose to go and work for one of them. And that is how, and at that time she was in a graduate development program. She actually immediately moved out of the graduate development program and went on to be part of the full-time staff. So she didn't have to finish the 18 months of graduate development program. Why? Because she was not comfortable with sitting doing nothing, saying, they pay me for. And at work you have access to Wi-Fi, you can do social media, you can be busy with your side hustle if you have a side hustle. But what you don't realize is you will not grow if you are working 2 out of 5 days. No one may care that you are getting paid for nothing. But 10 years later, when you look back at why your career stagnated, you'll be able to say, yeah, but to be honest, that year when I was in the graduate recruitment program, I had all, and I think that's one of the challenges that sometimes as young people we have, that you are young, you are eager to learn, your brain is ready to learn, but if you don't bother people about your situation, you'll actually be in a situation where your career goes nowhere. So I just want to encourage all of us who are, and we're not just talking about people who are formally employed. It's even people who are in business. So personally, I'm in business. And if I want to, I can actually sit and watch TV all day. No one will call me and say, hey, why are you watching TV all day? Because I don't have a boss. I'm my own boss. But sooner or later, my bank account will show you what I have been spending my time on. So in some careers, your career will punish you late in life, because for some time you can coast, you are not achieving anything, no one cares. In other careers, the career will punish you immediately, same month, same quarter, same year. So just because your career takes a long time to give you a response to your laziness does not mean you are exempt. And I like what you said earlier about procrastination, that a lot of us, we keep on procrastinating. And for some reason, we think we can beat time at its own game. Because remember, time will continue, whether you do something or you don't. There's this meme, I don't call it a meme anymore, they've corrected me, it's a meme. There's this meme that I like, and it says, when you were 28, you didn't want to start a 4-year degree because you said, well, now you don't want to finish a degree at the age of 32. And then it says, look at you now, you are 32 and you still don't have a degree. So some of the things, we disqualify ourselves. We tell ourselves that we are old. I mean, I was talking to my dad is 68. And when my dad talks to you about his plans, you will be embarrassed, because my dad tells us a few weeks before we went home at the end of July that he's thinking about starting a chicken farming. I think he told us 2 weeks before. Then on the 31st of July, on his birthday, we go home in the village in Dendron. When we get there, he takes us back where his mother's house is in Muhodi. When we arrive there, I get it 2 weeks before my father was saying he's thinking about starting chicken farming. When we get there, the chicken house is finished. Like, everything that he needs for the chicken house is finished. He's telling us that he's going to open the fence wherever. This is what he's going to do. And by the time Monday came and we were here, okay, on the same Saturday, we went to see one of our cousins, and he says he's looking for these hard-bodied chickens. I don't know what you call them. And my cousin says there's someone I know who's selling chicken wherever. By Monday, my dad was telling me that there are 10 chickens in that chicken house of his. So here is a 68-year-old man who, when he thinks about something, he's immediately thinking, how do I fund it and how do I implement it? You know, it sounds like something small because it's just a chicken house. All you have to do is fence it around, find someone to do that for you. It probably doesn't cost a lot of money. And he buys 10 chickens. If one chicken is 50 rand, chances are that's 500 rand. But he has started his business. If it were me, Mpo, I'd be writing a business plan. I'd be doing a SWOT analysis. I'd be doing market research. How much are people going to buy my chickens for? By that time, my dad already has 25 chickens. I mean, I'm still typing away on my laptop. So sometimes we think things are complicated. When you are thinking about productive use of time, you always need to balance between thinking and action. Thinking and action. Nomfundo could have sat and written a report about how this will impact the whole company, how other people will see. No, she just did that quick calculation showing productive use of time and called her boss, sat down with her boss. At the end of that meeting, she was going to see 3 other managers. And at the end of that interaction with the 3 managers, she chose to go into what we call the mass market. And in the late 90s, 1999, a lot of insurance companies wanted to create products for black people, for the mass market, as they called it, for low-income earners. And she was involved. So her entire career, her 20-year career in the insurance industry is based on products and services for the mass market. How did she get into the mass market? Because she did not sit down and say, I don't have anything to do. The other thing that I want us to see from Nomfundo's story is that she could have left the company. She could have said they don't care about me. She could have said they are not appreciating the fact that we are talented. Hey, now I'm a graduate. I come from. No, she didn't do that. And sometimes what we do is we leave places too early. We don't give ourselves an opportunity to benefit from what a place gives us. I think for me, especially now, because I work for myself, I appreciate everything that the company used to give me. I appreciate the fact that we had a PA. Even if that PA was not mine alone, we were sharing that PA. I appreciate the fact that when I was in a meeting, someone could answer my phone. I appreciate Wi-Fi. I never had to worry about how much data cost. I remember I used to have a cell phone allowance. Now, every rand that I spend on my cell phone comes from me. So those are some of the little things that sometimes when you are at work, you don't realize that you have them. And while you are there having those things, ask yourself, how can I grow in this environment? To mention is so important that this is about days. It's not about weeks or months or years. This is about days. And every time when I preach to young people, so I don't know why they still invite me, young people. I mean, I preach to high school kids. I'm like, I'm older than your moms. Why am I here? So, I can't believe that at my age, I still preach at a youth conference. So when I talk to young people, I always say to them, take yourself seriously. Don't wait for another person to take yourself seriously. As an individual, take yourself seriously. And when you take yourself seriously, you will take the use of your time seriously. You won't just sit and be okay with doing nothing, because you consider yourself an important person. So an important person can't just sit doing nothing. An important person is engaged in important things. So your presence in anything makes whatever it is that you are doing important. So the minute you take yourself seriously, even the use of your time, you will take it seriously. And I think that's just what I want to leave the listeners with, to say, take yourself seriously. Even the way you communicate, the way you engage with people, take yourself seriously. And when you take yourself seriously, you'll force other people. I don't mean be boring and don't make jokes. That's not what I mean. But take yourself seriously, and then you will honor and respect your time. So on social media, I'm Mantsha, MANTSHA, mantsha.com on Facebook and on my website. And then all social media platforms are Mantsha Pheeha. And my number is 082 755 8219.